Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the May 18th Environment Committee meeting of the City of Rehoboth Beach. I call this meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. Going to take a roll call of the committee members. Charlie Garlow.
Present.
Heather Metz is absent. Catherine Bergwin.
Present.
Eric Seward.
Present.
Joseph Vesio is absent. Mary Peck.
Here.
Nettie Green.
Here.
And Carolyn Diefendorfer. Here. We have a quorum and can conduct business. Since Joe is not yet here, I was expecting him. Do I have someone to initially take minutes?
Yeah, I can do it again.
Thank you.
He said he would be coming, though. He would be listening, I think is what he said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he may not be here, but you may not, if that's what he said, then perhaps he still plans on
just in
taking
case.
minutes, but thank you. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes of April 20th, 2023. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
I do. Hi, Catherine Bergwin. Was not assigned a liaison to a committee, so when we because I was out of town, so when
Right.
we relook at that, I would like to be assigned, please.
I don't have those notes with me, but I will be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't have the, I'm Nettie Green. I don't have the minutes before me, but it seemed like we had passed the resolution about the plastic straws, going along with what Carolyn had redone, and I thought that it looked like that was not passed according to the minutes.
I didn't think it had gotten passed.
Yeah.
I thought what was said is, believe it or not, for you to revisit your December or your proposal and with some new, I don't have the minutes either, I printed them,
Yeah.
but they're not with me. We used to get them
Yeah,
before
well,
our
I got
meetings.
them, but I just don't have them
No,
with
no,
me.
no,
But
I
I
meant-
know when I read them,
Yeah.
so maybe it's the rewording, Carolyn,
was-
that you were going to do. But I thought we had passed it.
to do it.
Okay.
But I believe it
I
was
thought in
passed.
theory we passed it, we just
I
needed to
thought we did
update the
too.
writing for you to present to the mayor and
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
commissioners.
yeah, but it just
And it
seemed like
was
in the
language
minutes
with
that
the
it was
bill,
not.
right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, in the minutes, it seemed like no reflection on you.
Right.
So I have the minutes right,
Catherine.
thank you to Mary. What was asked by Commissioner Ed is that you update your proposal and then you make the updates align with the words in SB 51 bill.
Okay. I don't think it was me that was supposed to do that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was me.
It was you.
And we did vote on it with that
Yes.
assumption happening.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry then.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. So
no problem.
we can either wait for the minutes to be amended and come back before us at the next meeting, or we can approve with the agreement that that change will be made to the minutes.
I propose that we, that it be passed as, so it could be presented to the commissioners, and you update whatever language needs to be updated, rather than wait till the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, this is just about the approval of the minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
okay.
has nothing to do with the timing of it going before the mayor and
Oh,
commissioners.
okay.
Would everyone be in agreement with us approving the minutes with that one amendment? So it reflects that it was approved? Is that everyone's recollection that we did approve?
Yes.
That,
Yeah, I don't remember, so if, I will approve it if, with your amendment, if that's how you recall it.
So I think I'm a pretty good note taker. So I'm just going to say that what the notes say is that the committee feels at the very least we should approve a motion for the mayor and the commissioners at the next meeting to approve, believe it or not, straws upon request by May 2023. And then the rest of SB 51 We were thinking of adopting that as our proposal as well. If the latest version from Delaware has not passed in the Senate. That's what I think we talked about.
Okay,
So.
well then let's table the approval of the minutes and I will go back and look at the recording and make sure that it accurately reflects what happened. Because it sounds like we're not all on the same page. So with that, so we'll bring the April 20th meeting minutes back at the next meeting for approval. First order of old business is, I would like to mention, just thank, we've got Ann Womack here, City Secretary, helping us run the meeting. And we have one guest, Francis Kelleher is here in the audience. First order of business, and I'll ask Charlie to give an update on if there's anything new with the offshore wind projects.
There have been a number of public forums for further discussion of offshore wind. I brought my little hat here today to talk about offshore wind. I think I can take it off now, the joke's over. In the forums, talked about whales and the impact of offshore wind farms on whales. And the next one is going to be on May 30th, if you'd like to come. It's going to be in Bethany Beach, although, of course, it affects us as well. And that forum will have as its topic the visual impact. And so you're all invited to attend those. The first one concluded that the impact on whales, if any, is de minimis and would not be threatening to populations of whales. They had several experts to discuss those items. The progress of getting permitting by the proponents of the wind farms, the companies that are making these proposals, is moving along slowly, as is frequently the case. But that's about all I would report on the wind farms.
Excellent, thank you for that update. Any questions for Charlie?
Just, who puts on those if we wanted to look up more information about specifically where in Bethany and the time, that kind of thing?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Let me give you the more accurate description. It's at the St. Martha's Church. Thank you very kindly.
St. Martha's? Okay.
And what organization is leading that
St.
charge?
Martha's Episcopal Church in Bethany Beach. The organization that's promoting or organizing the event is called POWER, P-O-W-E-R, People for the Offshore Wind Energy Resources, who's an environmental coalition of environmental groups.
Do you have the time that day?
Yes, I'm sure. 5 p.m. it's starting.
One thing I guess I'll add is that from the DENREC, I've heard that, and Governor Carney, right now, they are trying to figure out where the cables will come ashore for the Ørsted project, and that's kind of what's going on at the state level.
I'm sorry, what time was that, Charlie? I missed that.
5 p.m.
Thank you.
All right, Charlie, thank you for that update. Next on the agenda is our non-idling policy, and Heather Metz was leading the charge on that, and she's not with us today, so I would probably just defer that until she's here to lead that charge, unless...
He was going to talk, you were going to talk to, you guys are going to regret that I'm back, I'm sure, and taking notes. But you had the duty of, what I did in the notes is I bolded everybody's assignments. You were going to talk to the chief of police.
Yes, I've called the chief of police and left several voice messages. I've spoken with his secretary, Miriam, to leave my number and name to have the chief call me back. We're on friendly terms. I don't think he's cutting me off or anything. He's a nice guy. So am I. But we're going to get together and talk about those things. We have not yet done so.
Okay, great. And next, pollinator garden. That's your pet project, so I'll let you take it away, Charlie.
Very good. As you may recall, last time I've handed out a proposal which was lengthy, 5 pages here, and I sent it around to as many people as I could think of in an electronic version. I modified it, though, to take into account our chairman's suggestion that we have The commissioner and mayors have a section of things they're supposed to do, and this is on page 4 of 5, and a section for the city staff and the attorney, our city attorney, to pay attention to or take action so that that would be more clear. I hope that satisfies your interest in that separation of duties that we're recommending.
Charlie, who did you send that to? Because I never got an electronic version.
I was looking around for your email, Carolyn. I'm sorry to say that I did not send it to you electronically, but I could do so right now.
Was that given to Ann Womack? Charlie?
I sent it to Ann, no, I
Okay,
should do so.
I'm going to give a very strict reminder that everything that we send out, please copy Ann so it can be embedded in the agenda. So Charlie, I'm not going to worry about putting this up because I think we've had it on the projector many times before. The content has not changed. You've just parsed out who's responsible in certain areas, whether it be communications, the city arborist, or city staff and mayor and commissioners, correct?
That's correct.
You had handed me a copy, but it's not as long, so I don't know how it changed. But did you update it to reflect that the CDP has been adopted? Because the version you handed to me still said draft. So I would think at a minimum, before it can go to the mayor and commissioners, it has to be updated to reflect what's really in the CDP if it's different from what was in the draft.
Carolyn, I'd be glad to have your advice and wisdom on that topic. Is your suggestion that there is a more complete or updated
Well, the CDP is no longer draft.
plan, and we need to reference that?
Yeah, well, I would think we need to reference the final CDP that was adopted.
In which case, I will enjoy your suggestion as to where that should be best located. I'm sorry,
It's on the city website.
okay.
No, but where is the CDP referenced in his proposal?
Well, it was under background, if it's still there. Since I didn't see that version, it was under background.
I'm pretty sure it still is there.
Well, I apologize for not having taken action on that.
Okay, so under the background section, which is on page 1, it says, as noted in the above document, pollinator and native species gardens are favorable, commented on in the Rehoboth Beach Comprehensive Development Plan 2020-21 draft, which has yet to be approved by the state of Delaware.
Yeah, I think
So it just needs to say which has been approved by the state of Delaware instead of draft, which is yet.
I think I can
So
make that correction.
That's a minor
as we
change.
speak. I'll take care of that.
So what's the pleasure of the committee? Do we want to move this forward?
Again, I didn't see that version, so I don't know if this is still in there. But some of the things, for example, the tree code that's being considered does address invasive trees. So they're not allowed. So I don't know if,
So what I'm going to suggest is, since Carolyn has not seen a copy of this electronically, that Charlie, you send that to Carolyn, and then you guys coordinate any additional revisions.
Okay, I'm sending her now, and to Ann as well, the version which has not been updated to reflect the, not striking out the draft, but I will do so.
Is that a fine course for everyone? Let Carolyn and Charlie look at this and then bring a final version back at the next meeting?
Yes, and also I think probably you should put it in the, Ann should put it in like the documents for, publicly available document for the next meeting.
yeah.
So again, another reminder, anytime we have a document that's ready for us to review, please send a copy to Ann. Okay, sounds like we've got a path forward on that. Thank you, Carolyn, and all the work, Charlie, you've done on that. Sounds like we're at a pretty close final stage.
I would note that we really haven't had much discussion about the 5 pages worth of blah, blah, blah that I put in there. And as to substance, do people have a question or comment or draft edits or whatever on the substance of what we're saying, as opposed to the typos or whatever?
Well, I guess the bottom line, as I see it, is that you want the city to adopt a resolution, basically saying maybe it's a policy that we try to convert city property into pollinator gardens and incentivize private parties, basically kind of not a mandate, but a policy you would like the city to adopt.
At the root of it, I think I
That's the
feel like
basic
that's a correct
recommendation.
analysis, yeah.
Okay.
And is part of the proposal providing education for
Citizens of our town, yes.
Yeah, okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, no, she's saying sit closer
Okay,
to that.
okay, I was just wondering if part of it was providing education for newcomers and people that are interested in having pollinator gardens, which might take some money, I don't know. I mean, I'd be glad to be one of the educators, and I'm sure several people on the committee could.
I think,
Well, I would imagine that we could put in a request for funds to help with that. I don't want to give a specific number to tell the
Yeah,
mayor and commissioners
right.
how much money to spend, but
but education is part of the directive, which is in the proposal.
I will double check to make sure that we've made
Yeah,
that as part of our proposal to.
I think the proposal is just very broad, that we want the city to incentivize pollinator gardens, and, that education could be obviously included in that concept, but.
yeah.
So I think if the committee wants to be more specific about exactly what we think should be done, we might need a little more discussion on it, or,
I mean, I think I'm not sure what you all are intending when you say incentivize, but I know there's been talk of having incentives within the stormwater utility. That to me is the only place that you can really, if it's going to be a financial incentive. I don't know what kind of
Well-
incentive you would have if it wouldn't be financial.
one of the things, financial, one of the things I guess that we've talked about or I've thought about is in the building code, or in the process, maybe not in the code, but when people do new construction here, they have to do a whole new landscape. And there may be some way to look at how we encourage people to do their landscape, and when they have to come in and they already have to get approval with the tree situation. And also we have rules about lot coverage and things that are very related to landscaping. And so there's an opportunity, I think, at least in the case of new construction, to incentivize people. But otherwise, I don't know how you would incentivize people to do this.
If we could back up for a second. Education, there's a language right before this says report on committee analysis. It says educational signage should be provided wherever gardens are established. A series of lectures at City Hall should be arranged each year, utilizing the many nearby master gardeners and agriculture extension professionals. So there's language in here about education, Nettie.
Yeah,
If you want additional language that would make it clearer, I'd be glad to accept the friendly amendments. As well.
There could also be volunteers that wouldn't have to be paid, but,
Right, doesn't say anything about who's
yeah,
doing.
yeah, right.
Or money
right.
changing hands at all in this.
And how about the insecticides and herbicides? Is that part of this?
Yes, there's a discussion of this.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if you'd like me to find out where that was.
It is on page 2.
Study says that Roundup can cause cancer. Yes, Ann, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
A study says that Roundup can cause cancer, gives a web link there. Study says Roundup kills butterflies and bees, a link there. Alternative weed killers are available that are not toxic using vinegar, soap, and salt. A better way to avoid pesticides is to eliminate lawns and replace them with pollinator gardens. So that would eliminate pesticides there. You may want to read that section and see if you think it hits the nail on the head. If not, we can modify.
But we're not into regulating or fining when people use, you know.
I don't know
yeah.
how you can do
I
that.
don't
If
know
things
how you can
be-
do it
If
either.
things can be sold,
Yeah.
people can buy them.
Yeah.
I think all you can do is educate and hope that there are, you know, people that take to that.
Well,
I mean, I don't think you can legislate somebody's yard.
well, there is a provision in the Delaware Code that says it's illegal to put invasive species in, so laws can be passed. It's just that this proposal doesn't say that, because when it comes to pesticides, I believe federal law, help me out here, Mary, says that things like Roundup are regulated by the feds, and therefore that preempts cities and
Charlie,
states.
I just want to back up a little bit. I didn't know that that we had a law now in Delaware that you can't plant invasive species.
Well, you
Sorry,
can't,
you
they,
can't
you can't sell them.
Sell them, excuse
You
me.
can't, so you
I
can't
misspoke,
buy
right.
them in the state.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes.
The theory being that if you can't buy them, that they won't get installed. But yes, you could borrow some English ivy from your neighbor or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could buy it somewhere else.
And I think you and I fixed that in this, when we looked over it, that we said, oh, no, that's not a law that you can't plant it. It's just a law that they can't be sold.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which goes to Carolyn's concern that you can or cannot sell things or tell people they can't buy things. I think we can. It's just that when it comes to pesticides, I believe the federal law is that the sale or restriction of pesticides is governed by the Toxic Substance Control Act, and therefore we can't do that. That's why I put in there that we should be restricted in Rehoboth Beach to the greatest extent possible, meaning that if it's preempted, we won't do it, but if there are things that we can do to restrict it that are legal, we can do that.
Could we be more specific? I mean, is it specific in the federal law? I mean, in our state law about invasive species like ivy and Bermuda grass? I mean, is that?
It's against the law for a greenhouse, help me.
To sell,
Commercial
yeah.
operation.
Commercial operation to sell invasive plants now? Or, do they just have to label them?
No, I don't think they can sell them in the state.
Yeah,
There's a
okay.
list, too, that's useful, that, and so there's a fairly long list of invasive species that put out by the state. And so,
The state legislation says it prohibits the import, export, sale, transport, distribution, or propagation of any plant identified by the list that it says.
Okay, I need to get a copy of that. I'll get online with the state, yeah.
So where does that put us with this particular?
sounds like we have a lot of thought about it, a lot of discussion.
Good.
It would seem
Thank you.
to me that everybody needs to get a clean copy, and we need to have a complete discussion of this. That's just my opinion. Being new to the committee, I think it needs to be discussed and looked at in terms of what other committees are also doing. Like Trees and Green Infrastructure is doing an ivy thing, right? I believe. Yeah. Yes. You know,
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I think this thing's been around for a while, and people have probably just kind of haven't been paying attention to it as much lately. So if we want to, maybe it's a good opportunity to make it as best as we can before we approve it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also what would be helpful is, I think all of the information is there. Maybe at the very end, we could repeat, because people need repetition. This is what we want the city to do. This is what we want because it's in here, but it's not bulleted. So this is what we want the city to do. This is what we want the other person in the city that, see, I mean,
The city arborist?
Thank you.
Or communications
Arborist or-
person?
Yeah, or the person that would be responsible for helping us find the money for signs, and what we think we would like to propose to the citizens.
I think the more specific we can be, the better.
Yeah, that's my feeling too. Carolyn,
Charlie?
could you let us know what committees are dealing?
To the
with-
extent I'm aware of it, like I
See,
said,
because I don't know that. I didn't know the trees were dealing with anything but trees.
they're
I
good
didn't-
because
Green infrastructure met this morning, and one of their items on their
it's
agenda
the ivy.
was ivy.
Yeah, because it strangles the trees.
Oh,
So they're
yes.
trying
Yeah.
to, I think, get a
over the
program
place.
going to basically get the ivy off the trees. Yeah, cut it down
Yeah.
at the base so that
Yeah.
it doesn't kill the trees.
Yeah,
And what you have to do is not just cut it once, you have to cut it twice. And you have to leave a very huge gap, because if you cut it once, it will just.
Right,
go
but I know they're working on a program for that.
It's a tough one to get rid of.
Very tough.
We've tried to rip all ours out, and it keeps coming back.
it's a constant. I mean, for me, it's a constant
Yeah.
thing, as well as Bermuda grass.
All right, for the benefit of the note taker. So Charlie, Mary, and I are going to get together, or just whatever, and make this a little, as I say, I helped Charlie read, I read through this with him, and everything's here, but we'll make it more specific exactly what the recommendations are for the various people that you wanted it to have recommendations for.
I've made some corrections as we speak here today, but thank you very kindly, Edward, for having this substantive discussion of the proposal. First time in a long time. It's great. Thank you.
And I think Mary's right. It's been on the radar for so long that I think we just have some of us has just not paid close attention to it recently. So I think Carolyn's recommendation of getting a clean copy out to everyone, and everyone must read it in its entirety before the next meeting.
Thank you.
And come with specific thoughts, if you don't share them with Charlie ahead of time.
How can we find out what the different committees do?
Well,
is there a
that is
site-
why we
there's
have
liaisons.
liaisons to each of these areas.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at my
so you're
notes. Mary
liaison.
is the liaison for the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee. So I think that's part of having the liaisons is so that we are aware of what other committees are doing and organizations.
So Mary, could you let us know the next meeting, what the trees and the tree committee's doing?
I'll try to find out, yes.
Thank you.
And I don't know, RBMS may have plans on more pollinator gardens. I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
I'll get with Cindy.
So Carolyn's the liaison to Rehoboth and Bloom, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Main Street.
Main Street in general, yeah.
And who else is what?
Association of Coastal Towns is Ed and Charlie. Animal Issues is Carolyn. Beach and Boardwalk is Eric. Main Street is Carolyn. Chamber of Commerce is Joe. Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee is Mary. Solar 3 is Joe. Homeowners Association is Charlie. Rehoboth Elementary, Nettie. And Department of Transportation, Nettie.
I'll come get those from you. I couldn't keep up.
Okay, I will.
That's all right, I'll come
I will
over
send them
you.
to you. Okay, so it sounds like we are good with a path forward and bringing a clean version back at the next meeting and everyone reading it before. All right, excellent. Next on the agenda is a discussion of Arbor Day and Earth Day activities for 2024. Unfortunately, the next step in that was going to be Carolyn and I sitting down with the city manager, which we had planned for yesterday, and I unfortunately had to reschedule. So we've not yet done that, but I think we are planning on doing that
May 30th.
May 30th. And that's just so we can get an idea from the city manager on what we can and cannot do and what the approval processes may be. But I will say, in my initial discussion with him, He was very excited to hear that we may do a more robust program around those 2 days.
That's another item that, tree and green infrastructure is looking at.
Right. So there's, yeah, absolutely.
When's that meeting?
May 30th.
May 30th. And that'll be the city manager, Carolyn, and myself, and most likely the communications director.
City manager, that was what I was trying to say.
Any other questions? Francis, I'm sorry, I've not been specifically asking if there's any public comment, but if you do have a comment, just wave and I'll have you come up and speak to anything. Do you have anything to add for anything we've talked about already? Okay. I didn't want you to feel like we were forgetting about you out there. Next on the agenda is waste to energy solutions for trash and recycling, such as Covanta. I had a very lengthy discussion with Bob Ziegler and Mike Parkowski. Both are with the Delaware Solid Waste Authority. And essentially, what it came down to is we don't have the authority to transfer waste to anyone other than the Delaware Solid Waste Authority. And that is state law, and I think it's in Title, they sent it to me, Title 7, Chapter 64 of the Delaware Code. So if it's something we want to pursue, we would have to advocate at legislation statewide for municipalities to be able to do that. So I did get both Rob and Mike both offered to come here and speak to it directly, and also just do a presentation on trash and recycling in the state in general. But yeah, it was a bit unfortunate, and I think that's why I think Mayor Mills suggested that I speak to Delaware Solid Waste before kind of moving this any further, because he thought that there was something in the code that prevents it. And they both gave me a very long rationale on why it's set up that way and why Delaware is regarded as one of the best in the country in terms of dealing with trash. The other thing that I also asked him, because I think someone on the committee noted that they thought the landfill was near capacity, and he said the landfill in Sussex County has an additional lifespan of somewhere between, it's projected 75 and 110 years from now.
Wow.
So I just wanted to clarify that that part as well.
From what I've heard, Delaware, speaking to people who do the solid waste recycling, Delaware has markets and continues to recycle certain items, even though it's not profitable, and is one of the best for recycling plastics and metal and glass.
Yeah, that's one of the items that they mentioned is a lot of municipalities, a lot of states, a lot of counties. I guess we're one of the few that does it statewide.
Yeah.
And it's left up to municipalities and counties and a lot of other places. And because of that, they don't do a lot of things unless it's profitable to that municipality or county. And Delaware, the way that we deal with solid waste and recycling is it's funded, so we don't care if it's profitable or not.
Yeah.
And we recycle a lot of things that other places wouldn't.
Or that we don't even have a market
Right.
for. Yeah.
Well, Edward, I think I'd like to take advantage of their offer to speak to us, since we still haven't come up with a coherent concept of how to improve recycling in Rehoboth Beach, and maybe it would be helpful to kind of come up to date on the whole situation, and maybe they'd have some ideas that would be useful for us.
Right. So I did peeking back on that, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, because I do have recycling as an agenda item at the end. But I did ask for their thoughts about us being able to recycle batteries, light bulbs, other household hazardous waste. And the reason why they've never allowed it down here is because they don't have a recycling tech down here to be able to deal with it if, I guess there needs to be an assigned technician. So I think he said the closest one to Rehoboth is the facility in Long Neck.
Is where?
The facility in Long Neck
By
is the
that transfer station,
the
I
transfer
guess?
station, yeah, is the closest.
Isn't that where we ship
Yes,
our waste, though? Our solid waste?
I think so.
I believe so. I'd have to have Kevin confirm, but
I thought Kevin had
it's
mentioned
either in
that.
Georgetown or Long Neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they went to the transfer station on Route 5, which would be Long Neck, I
Yeah.
think, right?
Right.
So that's a recap of my conversation with the folks from,
I was just going to second, I was going to mention the same thing. I think it's good that we would be able to, I'd like to have them here too, as, to maybe as a team come up with some questions or tap their brains or, give them some discussion topics to present to us and ideals and whatever they think.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we're still not,
I'd like to do it as kind of a twofold, make it more of a public presentation on how we deal with waste in Delaware and
There you go.
recycling in general. And then the second half of that is more get into specific and thoughts, brainstorming with us
Yeah.
a little bit.
yeah.
Maybe we could have Covanta and the solid waste people. I mean, have them all together in like a public. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's,
I don't know that Covanta's going to want to meet with us if
they're
there's,
not going, they're not going
there's
to get
no
the business.
ability for them
No
to
way
get
we
business.
can do anything with them because of Delaware code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Chester,
They're in
Chester.
Chester, but
Pennsylvania.
Mike would be able to get more into specifics, but he's sort of the environmental guru at Delaware Solid Waste Authority. But he said there's some strong arguments against waste to energy versus
just normal
landfilling.
landfill.
And so we may be able to, he could probably get into specifics about that, so we better understand it. But if the committee is really passionate about it, we can write a letter to the legislators and
Often
so,
Huxtable.
there
I'm
is
not
state
totally
code,
sold on it.
but if there's other options that we want the state to consider, it's something that it's an avenue we could take if, obviously, it still needs to go before the mayor and commissioners, as well, but.
Edward, what was I got Mike Sarkasti. What was Bob
Rob Ziegler,
Ziegler?
Ziegler.
Okay.
I don't know either one of their positions, but they're both fairly high up at Delaware Solid Waste. And Mike did note that he is sort of their environmental guru there.
So again, just for the note taker, Delaware does not have anything related to taking waste and making it into energy. We're just at the moment recycling.
That he did, that is, we don't have any waste to energy facilities per se. He did note that we generate some type of energy at one of the landfills.
Probably Cherry Point or something.
Yeah,
Pasco County.
it's beyond my realm of knowledge or expertise, but I don't know in what capacity that happens.
We would find that out when they
Yeah.
came. Yeah.
And I think in the west of the county, they're taking manure and turning it into energy. There's a plant, I guess in Greenwood, that's doing this. So that's not, that's recycling biological stuff.
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
I think manure falls outside of Delaware Solid Waste Authority.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's more
okay.
agriculture waste.
Yeah. All right.
All right, sounds like we definitely want to have the folks from the state come here and present to us, I think both on an educational piece and brainstorming.
That would be great.
That would be great.
Is
All
that
right.
something you'll set up,
I
Edward,
will,
or
yeah.
or I didn't know if one of the team members or?
I'm probably gonna try to set it up in coordination with city staff and do it more as a special meeting for us, but it would be a special meeting. And it, focused on public outreach and education, stuff like that.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we've got light pollution concerns and dark sky initiatives. We have Frances Kelleher here with us, who's a resident. She's asked for us to look at this. As I noted before, this is something that the Beach and Boardwalk Committee has looked at in the past. So I'm gonna let Frances come up. And Frances, if you want to, probably easiest for you to go to the podium over there, and I'm gonna pull up some of the documents that you're gonna reference. And just remember,
And, yeah, and I don't need that up right away. Is there a way for me to, like, put this on, just
yeah,
to
sure.
show?
And can we
That's
pull up
the
the,
first thing I
can we
would,
pull up the document?
this.
You're gonna, when you put them up, you're gonna put them away from you.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
Oh. Should it face the person or face that way?
That way.
So do it that way.
Okay.
And just if you want to, start explaining.
Yes, okay. I'm not going to show that right away either. I'll show that next, but. Hello, everyone. I have listened to you by the communication, or the online. So it's nice to be here and see everyone. So I had written to Commissioner Sharnofsky about the issue of light pollution, specifically in the residential district, and I am aware of the boardwalk and that there are some other activities in the city for, I'll call it downtown. And I don't know if anyone's ever looked at the satellite image of the light at night in Rehoboth, but what you see is what you'd expect in a way, the classic bright lights along the Rehoboth Ave. But the residential neighborhoods are actually pretty dark, relatively speaking. Given our less polluted air down here in Sussex County, et cetera. So anyway, my issue, though, stems from what I'll say is a growing trend of linked in with the growing, which we've had, the growing trend of tear downs. Now they're tear downing of houses. Now there seems to be this new trend, relatively new, of building homes with bright lights built into the eaves, and they're at multiple levels, and they're not just in the front of the house, they're actually all around the house. They're at the sides of the house, they're at the back of the house. They're even on sheds that are made to be little mirror image or mini-me's of the house. So anyway, I'll show you my picture. So, may as well show it. So here's a picture of, I live at 318 Stokely Street. Yes, I live at 318 Stokely, and I was fortunate to, back in the early 90s, when I bought my lot. It was the last lot available along Stokely, which comes up along the lake. And then my house is not, I don't have lakefront property, but I'm at the tip of the lake with the swale behind me. So I have wooded area. The kids from Rehoboth Elementary School, because I'm the first house that isn't having waterfront, if you will, the kids had their path through my lot, coming from school, coming, back into the neighborhood. So it's a really nice place there along Stokely where you have the swale area that has lots of woods. And this is my house here. I have a second-story deck at the back. I was talking earlier about how I do like to look at the stars, and I have that second-story deck so I could look up into the dark night sky. But what's happened, and it is, this is one house. There is a new house in the 300 block of Hickman. Some of you might be familiar with the house that they just actually had requested a variant to build into their basement. It's a house at the corner of Hickman and Scarborough, and they have the lights. Interestingly, their lights are on the two sides of their house that face the street, but not at the sides that face their neighbors. Okay, so unfortunately for me, the house next door to me, that it was the first tear down along our street. So I built my house. It was the last one built on an empty lot. This is the first house along Stokely that, at least in our area, that is a tear down. And this new house now has been built with, you can see all the lights. They're along the sides. It's a little hard to see, but they're along the sides and along the back. They're up at the top of the roof line, and then there are eaves that are over some, I guess, windows and things where there's also lights at mid-level. And then they also have lights, in the yard. Basically, that is a picture I took last night at 9 o'clock. So now what I'd really like to show you is the idea of light trespass. So light trespass is, where unwanted light goes beyond where it's supposed to be. So you can see in this picture, this is going to be a contrast. It looks kind of dark there between my house and their house. But that's just because I took this photo dead straight on to the side of my house. This is what it really looks like. The light from the sides of the house just trespasses into all areas. And so you can see it shining all along the right side of my house, which is where all my bedrooms are. Now, what you can't see in this picture as good, but in the next picture, if you look up in this area, I can do this. Up in this area, I want to show you the light trespass into the woods. And you can see behind my house there, the nice dark night and the dark sky. Okay, so I hope this shows up. It's the best I could do. I tried to take another photo where I angled the camera up and to show you this, that in the back, and this goes, back behind their property, the trees are all like illuminated in that swale area. And this is This is just to kind of make the point about the light invasion, if you will. This is a picture of my downstairs handicapped accessible bathroom. Has a large 5x5 empty space where a wheelchair can turn around in there. This was taken last night at 10 o'clock. The room was dark. I mean, all the lights were out. I was standing, taking the picture from the handicapped shower area, just out from the shower. So all of that light, that is the light coming into, my house. The beam on the left is the light coming from the second floor lights. And then you get the middle lights, and it basically illuminates the whole room. And it goes out into the hallway if I had that door open. So, anyway, so I'm here today to ask the committee if they would consider sponsoring a city ordinance on exterior lighting in the residential district. We do actually have a small section in our pool code that restricts lighting, and it's a very simple wording, and it kind of mirrors noise ordinance in that it just says, any outdoor lighting used in conjunction with a pool shall be employed in a manner so as not to cause a nuisance or annoyance to neighboring properties. Lights shall be shielded and directed in a manner that shall not direct illumination on adjacent properties. No unshielded lights shall be permitted.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, that was part of our big pool code. But we have nothing at all similar, anything that addresses exterior lighting in the residential district in our code in general. So I brought today for everyone a copy. I hope it's not environmentally friendly of me. I did make paper copies, but there's only 5 pages. So what I copied out of the International Dark Sky Association is this very recent thing that it's from 2021. And just to step back, I'd like to say that back in 2011, they did develop what they called a model ordinance for municipalities that they could kind of copy or use as they would want to create an ordinance. And in 2021, they re-looked at it, and they basically decided that instead of, updating it or reissuing it, they decided they would come out with these 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting. And so I've just brought this to you that you can read at your convenience, read at home, take a look at it. The other thing that came with this...
Anne, can we switch to the computer? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Francis, if you want to scroll through that, you're more than welcome to.
Okay.
I think the 5 principles are just under that section.
Let's see. Can I scroll down on the bar? Oh, use the mouse. Sorry, it's on the second page, but let me stay up here. So what they came out with in 2021 is this value-centered outdoor lighting, and they added these 5, I'll call them 5 other kind of principles to what they had previously had. So these are also, oops, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Where am I? What the resolution covers. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't seem to match my, let me scroll down. Oh, no, this isn't Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. This is, I think maybe this, Commissioner, maybe this was part of the other handout that I gave to you
Okay.
on policies.
Well, if you just want
So-
to read off of your
Yeah.
document,
So
it will
any-
be embedded in the
Yeah.
agenda.
So anyway, but it's interesting, if you just even go to International Dark Sky Association and you Google lighting, you'll come up with these. And they're just some, pretty, I think, very kind of common sense thoughts that could also easily be put into an ordinance. Like, I'll just pick on the second one of this, of the new things they came up with. The use of direct uplighting should be avoided. So it's like, and then, of course, the top one, critically sensitive environments should be kept dark. It's all kind of common sense, but what would be good is that if we had an ordinance in the city, and I would kind of it could be separated with the idea that it's for the residential district, because I know it's a whole other can of worms to talk about the commercial district and what you could or couldn't do there. So I just think that given this trend, and it does seem to be growing, and, oops, my last show and tell was this, 'cause I could not. You can't keep talking. So
It's unusual.
here I was yesterday having my breakfast at Egg, because it was reopened. And I picked up this magazine just to look at it. And lo and behold, here on like page 3 is this big thing of Overture. And it is this company, Overture, that had their trucks out in front of 320 Stokely Street for months and months on end during that build. But this is an article of Let There Be Light. Modern lighting systems offer a host of benefits. What they offer as benefits are like the opposite of what is some of what's good for the environment. So, and you can see, I mean, here they're showing, they've got lights, I mean, literally everywhere. And on that house at 320, I mean, the number of lights, when you try to count them, you're talking like 10 lights, 9 lights, 8 lights. I mean, they're numerous lights. They're spaced at, some of them are spaced at like, I think, 3 foot apart. I mean, they're a lot of lights, and that's how you get that really bright illumination. So I'd even encourage the committee members to do a drive-by 320 Stokely some night to see what I'm talking about. But sadly, as in the Country Club Estate area where I live, those were very modest homes back in the day. They were mainly retirees. We have all small lots, little lots. My lot, the front of my lot's only 45 wide at the front, because I am at the turn where Stokely makes the bend up to Hickman. But they're small lots. People built small, modest, nice houses. And, if we even want to talk about keeping the environment of Rehoboth, keeping our environment the way that it's been for 100 years plus, then I think something actually does need to be done, or we're going to end up with the residential area beaming up in a satellite image like our commercial area does. So I think it's the time to do something.
Francis, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention and making that presentation. I think we've all seen some of the images that you displayed today, and I think everyone probably agrees that light can certainly be a nuisance to to their neighbors and others.
Yeah, and I would just like to throw in that, I've been fortunate to enjoy the woods behind me. Fox families, have lived there because I'm at the tip of the lake. I see the deer come, I see the foxes. There are a lot of animals that are living in those woods. And it's just a shame that it would, change for the worse.
And I think it also has to do with us as people and our ability to sleep. I mean, I know where I live. I mean, if I have a light blaring, coming in my room like that, it is just too much. And I mean, psychologically and actually physically, that is not good. It's just to be sleeping in light, for.
But it's not on.
Yeah, Francis, do you want to just stand up there until we're finished with the discussion?
I tried to make this presentation not about me, but I can tell you, well, I don't want to tell you all of the troubles. And again, all my bedrooms are along that side of the house. And I have had to replace, I had nice duet shades. Well, they don't do anything to stop that light. I've had duet shades with curtains. It seeps in the sides or in the middle. I actually, in my, I call it my handicapped accessible bedroom, the front little room at the front of the house, I have wooden shutters. The light pierces through the little gaps where the metal clips, move the shutters. So I have had to get basically all new window treatments. I've had to buy, blackout liners, all kinds of things. I mean, now I'm up to like 3 layers in every room, and I still can't keep that light out. And what is sad, I wrote this in my letter to Commissioner Sharnofsky, that my family always enjoyed, because we're from North Wilmington, coming down here to, the beach, Sussex County. To us, it's the country, the countryside. And we loved always having our windows open in the night. And I even wrote in my letter that, even though I'm the third block, which is really the 4th block from the ocean, on a quiet night, I can hear the waves crashing, the sound if it's a cloudy night, whatever. So even though I'm literally a mile from the ocean, a mile walk down to the beach, you could hear the sound of the waves. And again, I love the night air. And, it's just like, a lot of times in these books and things, they talk about, it's like being in a big city. You have to get the blackout shades. But that doesn't, you can black it all out, but how do you then have the fresh air? And that's what's really missing.
Thank you. Carolyn, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think you were following this when the Beach and Boardwalk Committee was looking at dark skies.
I went back and looked at their presentation. I don't remember them getting into the residential area a lot in their presentation. I
Right.
think they more focused on the lighting along the boardwalk and the lighting along Rehoboth Avenue, that when things needed to be replaced, that their recommendation was to get, I don't know that I'm going to say it right, but like dark sky approved lighting fixtures.
Yes, and that's that's why I kind of separated that out, because
Right.
there is all that other things that can be done with the street lights, and which could be done in the residential area too. But but I kind of left that because I know they were trying to work on that, and they're trying.
I do have one question for Francis. What time of night do those lights go off?
They never go off.
Oh, they're leaving them on all night?
I wrote in my letter, I said, they come on at dusk and they stay on all night. There's no dimmer. I mean, one of the things in the international dark sky thing, they talk about, it's like use the lights when you need them, but then, have dimmers or other mechanisms. I wanted to throw this factoid out too. They're not even needed for security. This house is fully wired. All the windows, all the doors have alarms. They're all alarms, and they're probably monitored. I don't know that for a fact, but I do know for a fact that there is, I call it the spy camera. There is a spy camera outside my downstairs handicap bathroom window that, looks a little bit too much like it's looking in at me. I don't know what the width of that eye is, but I'm thinking that these the alarms that go off, I think they're probably monitored, but they do have alarms on the doors and things. So these lights, and even in the dark sky, these lights are not for security. I mean, they might think they're for security, but they have other mechanisms of security, and the dark sky ratings talk about that. It's been shown that light is not really a security deterrent. And I also wrote, I know that people are from the big cities and that, and they're used to having a lot of light, but that's not how it is, if you will, in the more country areas. And before the people moved into this house, they actually had professional shades, some kind of shades that I think are also electric in all the windows. And I just say they never open up their shades. But those lights are on they're on from dusk to dawn.
So it would seem to me, at a minimum, we could recommend an ordinance within the city. Noise has to end at 11. All lights must go out by 11, it would seem to me.
Well, and can I just, in the dark sky, in the original model for an ordinance, they talk about these 5 things, and one is, you put light where you need it. So you have it at your back door, your front door, your garage door.
I understand I understand that you want the maximum that we can, but I think some of that is zoning related, probably.
Oh, no,
and would
I'm just
require
saying they do.
Public hearings and everything.
I'm just saying they do talk about the idea of lighting where it's needed. When it's not needed, then it should be dimmed. So it's the spirit of what you're saying.
I'm just trying to think of things that should be, in my opinion, no-brainers for anybody to get behind. And the lights going off at a reasonable time, in my mind, if noise is allowed until 11, then you got to allow the lights to 11. But
or you
I
could
think going further might be more difficult or just take longer to happen.
Well,
they have motion detector things. So,
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think something that everybody could get behind would be a quick lights, lights need to go off at 11 o'clock at night when noise is no longer allowed.
Yeah.
It's going to take us longer, I think, to go further, because I think some of this is zoning related and might require public hearings and all that kind of stuff.
No, I'm just saying you could have a thing where the light's off, except that you could have motion sensors for if you come back from the bars at midnight.
Yes.
Because this is the first time we're sort
Right,
of
we have
talking
to-
about this,
yes.
I don't really want to get into specific recommendations. I would first like for the committee to decide, is this something we want to talk about further? Where we do get into specifics and recommendations and ideas, or is this something that we don't want to pursue? I'd like to decide that so that at a later meeting, we can get into the nitty-gritty of it.
I 100% support what Francis is saying and think something should be done.
I'll second that emotion.
All right. That's the consensus? Okay. So,
Edward, could I share one educational resource? that could
Yeah, yeah.
supplement this. Nettie shared with me the February 27th, 2023 edition of The New Yorker, which is entitled Turn Off the Light. And it's talking about many of the same things that Francis did. We can maybe make that part of anybody wants to get a copy, I can fax it to you or whatever you'd like to. In addition, one of the suggestions she had was for the color of the light has an impact, especially on night moths and others. And I brought along with me today gifts for those who would like them of yellow light bulbs, which are better for the environment. So if you have a front porch or back porch light that you like to leave on overnight, make it yellow and it's better for the environment. So help yourself. Don't make me
Thank you.
carry them home.
thank you,
I
Charlie.
had one other, I think I left it over there that I wanted to share, again, for your thinking and deliberations and considerations. There is a professor at the U of D at the marine biology station there in Lewis who has an interest, a research interest in light pollution, and I have his name. I mean, his research, a lot of it is on light pollution and how it affects marine.
I remember that was a big part of the presentation when the Beach and Boardwalk Committee was listening to was the effect that light has on marine life. So let me ask the committee one additional questions. Francis wants us to focus on residential areas. Do we want to keep our focus on residential, or do we want to look at this holistically?
I'd say holistically, going up and down Rehoboth Avenue at nighttime, I notice most all of the lamps don't have the downward deflectors. They let the light go straight up, and they ought to be doing something about that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Charlie. I think it should be looked at holistically, because it's a major problem for us as people, for animals, for the environment, and it's very important.
Everyone else agree with that?
I agree.
Okay. Okay, then that is the direction that we will go. Can I have a member of this committee volunteer to sort of lead this charge, working with Francis, perhaps?
I'll volunteer.
Okay, Mary will, thank you.
I could work with you too.
And Heather Heather's the one that brought this up to us a long time ago.
Right.
Yeah, so.
It came up with the 5G,
Right.
Verizon
Yep.
is going to replace
It
this.
was an opportunity that we missed.
And just
'cause we-
so we're,
Sign her too.
Right.
That's what happens when you
and
don't come
just
to meetings.
so the committee is aware, we are starting in this budget year to outfit the lights on Rehoboth Avenue to LED. So this is, I think, a good opportunity to look at this in conjunction with that project sort of getting started this year. All right, with that, any final thoughts on this? Then I'll let Charlie take it away with noise pollution.
Thank you, Francis. Yes, I sent around electronically to some of you. I foolishly am presuming that FOIA prevented me from sending to everybody on the committee, which is not the case. It's just a matter of we can't have discussions on email, so I'll send it out again. But for your reading edification, you guys have one down, or two down this way. Share that if you'd like to. This is a statement that we do have a noise ordinance already in Rehoboth. Certain decibel levels may not be exceeded. We don't have much in the way of enforcement as far as I can figure. My home is like half a block, my bedroom is a half a block away from Rehoboth Avenue, and there are lots of motorcycle and truck types who like to roar up and down the street to show off their holes that they drilled in their muffler or whatever they did to make them extra loud. And they do it, as far as I can tell, principally to scare people, which is not a good thing to have in a family-friendly town like ours. So my suggestion was to look at the available technology for enforcing our noise ordinance. And there is a nice one I found. Lucky Google search came up with what you see in your printout there. It's Not Allowed is the name of the organization. They sell a deal that will detect noises in excess of the ordinance level and take a picture with a camera of what vehicle may have been emitting that sound. So I thought it would be a great way for the city to make more money by having tickets automatically issued by this machine, or rather be referred to the to Chief Banks of the police to make a decision on that topic. But in any event, it would provide evidence there of violations, which could be curbed so that our town would be more pleasant and not have roaring noises. We don't want to have our town have the reputation for being, shall I say it, like Dewey Beach, which is a biker hangout. If we had noise ordinances, perhaps we would keep the tranquility of Rehoboth Beach, which I find to be charming, and I hope we keep it that way.
Charlie, I thought we did have some kind of noise detection enforcement here, and I remember a few years back, 5 years back or so, we had somebody going around checking outdoor dining and restaurants at night.
We certainly do. It is a very time-consuming and lengthy process. You have to stand there for so long and look at it from different angles, and then you have to do a calculation to then calculate out ambient noise. It's more or less specifically for restaurants and bars. I think what Charlie is kind of focusing more is vehicular noise.
Yes.
And new technology that could in 2 seconds hear something, take a picture, and that be the enforcement.
Right. I didn't have any intention of having this focus on restaurants at all.
Sure, I don't like those what you described. I think it's pretty obnoxious.
How much does it cost?
Well, I didn't get a cost estimate. I sent away to them and asked them to give me a cost estimate. Haven't gotten it back yet, so don't know.
Charlie, did you reach out to the chief at all about?
I was
about
going to
this?
speak to the chief about enforcement of the noise proposal that we have, as well as the anti-idling proposal, which we've been discussing, but I have not yet connected with my friend, Chief Banks.
He's busy training his summer people.
Right, yeah, he's a busy
I
guy.
saw him out in the parking lot the other day with the bikes.
Yeah, he has a tough job. He's got to recruit good people. You know, that takes a lot of effort, too.
So again, because this is a new topic, I'm simply going to ask what's the pleasure of the committee to sort of move this along and talk about it again in more detail and get the chief here at the next meeting, or is this something we want to pursue?
I think, given that it's always about money. I had a very close friend in my life that used to tell me that, but I think it's such a simple solution, if we can afford it, that I think it's definitely worth pursuing.
It's supposed to be a money maker because you'd get fine money
That's
from
true,
the
too, yeah.
pictures.
So I'm all for pursuing it. Anybody else?
I have nothing against.
I have no objection.
And I think it's a good idea.
So
I'll second it.
we'll get some feedback from Chief Banks, and we'll have him hopefully here at the next meeting as well. And perhaps by then, Charlie, I think if you could do a little bit more research, I think one of the questions is going to be within courts, this type of ticketing,
Does it hold up?
does it hold up in the court of law? And I'm sure there's some research about that, but that would be one of my first questions. We can ticket away, but if it can be challenged and easily dismissed, perhaps what's the point? But, so I think that would be one of my first questions if I was looking at it.
Very good point.
I almost think that some of those noisy vehicles, you could probably win in court without even the technology, because they probably have some sort of modification on them that, to make them so noisy and, you know,
Yes, if you drill a hole in your muffler, that's a
Yeah.
violation of the Clean Air Act.
yeah. Well, I think that probably, if we made it, even if we just made a priority for the police to focus on those types of vehicles, without even, with or without the equipment, I think you could probably find a law that they're violating.
Yeah, because usually to get that kind of sound, they've got to, hit it
Yeah.
and go pretty fast. I mean, there's one that leaves town every night at 3:30,
Oh, wow.
and I hear it right at the circle.
one that comes down my street.
I don't know, but there's one every night. But I will say, to the town's credit, they do, if you call, I had Rise Up was pressure washing at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, my
Their
goodness.
streets and whatever, I don't know, the sidewalks, I'm not sure, but it woke me up, I heard people. I called the police station and I said, who can I talk to enforce the noise ordinance? And he goes, you can talk to me. He says, is it going on right now? And I said, yep, and within 3 or 4 minutes, it was gone. It was done. I saw the cop come and so they do, but that's my thing is how are they?
They're not right there, they rely on people calling and complaining. Because if they're not right there when it happens,
Right.
they don't know
I just
it.
don't know how that's gonna work, but I'm all for it.
All right, so we'll put this on the agenda for the next meeting. Any final thoughts any comments from the public? Francis, no. Any final committee member comments? Any future agenda topics that anyone wants to talk about?
We could talk forever, but we got enough.
Yes.
You have another meeting.
Yeah. Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 2:22 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I guess we're going.